And guys, here we are back at it again. Hope you love that little intro I put together for you, showcasing some of the new optimizations that you will experience on the Retropie 4 using the Supreme Unified build. Just wanted to give a special shout out to Regalod and We're Dirty Gaming. So far I know Dirty Gaming, he's put on a lot of time and effort and hours putting us together for us so we can enjoy Retropie on the 4B. Now I put together those clips for you guys so you guys can see some of the optimizations that have been made, some of the games that were not either playable or loadable on the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. But without further ado, I'm going to walk you guys through some of this operating system or the front end. A lot of it looks familiar because all of this was moved over from the Supreme Unified for 3B Plus, which I debuted a few months ago with the arcade build, the Supreme one up. It's basically the same thing except it's running on the 4B, and you guys are going to be getting the full loaded systems here. Everything here is going to be included, but I didn't transfer everything over as I'm just presenting this short showcase, but I've not had a lot of time to kind of catch up and show you guys or keep you guys up to date with what's been going on in the Raspberry Pi world. So first and foremost, before I really get into that, we're going to take a look at a few videos here. Cruising USA here on the N64. There's a little bit of lag time and stuff, but while this video plays, you guys can check out the video for yourself to see how it performs. This game itself was not really playable on the 3B Plus. There was a lot of lag and downtime. There is still a little bit of that here on the 4B. However, you are getting a little bit more fluid response, but everything just needs to be optimized a little bit better. Of course, right now my Pi is not overclocked, and that also brings me to some other things we're going to talk to you guys about today in regards to the Raspberry Pi 4B. As of right now, the Raspberry Foundation has not provided GL drivers. If you guys are not familiar with what GL drivers are, imagine trying to run a high-end video game system or game on your computer and you don't have the drivers for the video card that's installed in your computer. So for example, currently I run an NVIDIA RTX 2080 and it could sit there, but if I did not have the drivers to take over the processing, the ray tracing for the games and rely solely on my processor, of course it wouldn't be as optimized as possible. Now in this case, all the performances that you will see with all the games are just the performances of the processor, and there are no GL drivers currently installed, so we can't really optimize everything until that's made available. In addition to that, some of the things that you'll also see today, you'll see some games that will load that have never loaded before on the B Plus or the 3B Plus, and so honestly I call that a success right now because it can only go up from here. As you see, the Cruising USA, the only time you get a little bit of lag time is when you have the open world. Everything's trying to render there in the background. But the one thing about the N64 is that a lot of the games are fully optimized to run very fluidly, and games that weren't playable in the past will now run on the 3B Plus. I'm sorry, on the Raspberry Pi 4. Currently, there are a few of us. We're very short-handed because a lot of people are familiar with either coding or going through the emulation systems to make sure everything's running correctly. However, we also do have Damaso, who's currently going through all the arcade ROMs from colon or semicolon all the way down to the letter Z to find out what exactly we need to add to this to also increase the ROM packs as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at a few more games that we have on display for you guys today, and I hope you guys are really going to enjoy this because we're still in untested waters. We're downloading new emulators with MAME 2016 and several other emulators that are out there because those emulators were not possible on the 3B Plus. Now, as of right now, this is the only build that is a true unofficial official build for Retropie running on the Raspberry Pi 4B board. You get full loading screens. A lot of other videos that you have probably seen already are still accessing the same ROMs and same games and running a version of Retropie in the background or running with the desktop in the background. However, with this particular versions, you won't have a desktop running in the background at all. You're loading directly into Emulation Station with background sounds running and also custom splash screens available. Some of the other builds or programs that you will see out there will have a desktop in the background eating up valuable system resources. And in addition to that, you also have to, in some cases, also use terminal in order to play the game. With this front end, there is no terminal. There is no desktop running in the background. So those are some of the advancements that have been made in porting this over to the new board, which makes all the gameplay much more fluid and more responsive. Now, I did post a video a few weeks ago. I know a lot of you guys laughed at that as far as the performance, but again, it just takes time to optimization. And remember, there are no GL drivers included right now. This is not overclocked. And in addition to that, there is a method to allocate some of the RAM to help some of the performances. So while playing GoldenEye, I did experience a little bit of lag time, but that was more or less in the open world environment. As I continued to move on a little bit, I did have a little bit of lag when I had to encounter some of the individuals or as more players showed up on the screen, but all of that could be optimized in the future. But for what you're seeing right now, I'm glad. I mean, me personally, I'm impressed with the accomplishments that we've come up with so far, and it can only get better from here. Now, fast forward at the video just a little bit so you guys can see the frame rate change from being pretty much perfect to a little bit of downtime there to about maybe 20 frames per second, maybe just a little bit lower, because at this point the world opens up a little bit and there's more to process. But again, that's all due to a lack of optimization and GL drivers, which we are still currently working on. And now that we're back at the desktop version, or the front end of the OS in Retropie, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the systems that are currently installed and the options that you have available. Everything still kind of looks the same from what you guys are used to. We have Dreamcast so far that's loaded, and we're still working on that because currently Recast is not supported on this system. So that's something we're still working on. The games do run, however, they are a little bit messed up with graphical errors and whatnot because Recast is the better emulator for these Dreamcast games. So far, the only thing we have loaded is something called Flycast, which isn't exactly optimal for the games right now. And right now we're going to go ahead and load up Marvel vs. Capcom 2. As you can see, there's no terminal as it switches over from desktop to game. I'm purposely not going to cut this for you guys because I want you guys to see it. The game does move faster as it should, just like the arcade version and the Dreamcast version. However, everything is really pixelized. So I know originally on the 3B Plus there was a lot of screen tear on the game and a little bit of slowdown, but there is no slowdown on this game or the particular version. But however, the graphics aren't up to par, so we're still trying to work on get Recast working on the system. And you can see there's a little graphic errors around the screens and the selector. When you select your characters, go ahead and get get started. The minute this initiates, you'll see that you don't see any characters here. Now, a lot of times when we're gaming or people are making that transition from either 3D Plus, PC, or Raspberry Pi 4, a lot of it is emulation. A lot of it is not hardware capable. Smooth as silk here on the Supreme Pi 4. And what's funny is this game actually runs faster on the Pi for me than it does on my PC because I'm using an older emulator to run this game. So here we have Area 51. I'm going to go ahead and load up a few coins. I'm going to press the start button. Let me turn up the sound for you guys a little bit so you here what's going on. Now I'm not using a light gun right now. I haven't tried using my golf gun.
Reload.
I will be doing another tutorial on that.
Reload.
For you guys in the community to understand that this was not just something like a copy and paste where you just bring everything over to a lot of stuff has to be
Reload.
Also, too, another quick note. I haven't been able to do it. Take the Raspberry Pi using the network. I have another program which allows me to add my ROMs and configure everything.
Reload.
So currently, if you guys are familiar with that, you're going to need to get familiar with it. If you are familiar with adding your own ROMs,
Reload.
Be detected on the network.
Please reach command.
Alright, let's take a look at the options menu. And a lot of stuff here still looks familiar. You have your Wi-Fi connection. Switch Genesis Mega Drive, you have the Supreme Online tool. This is another one to build maybe 2 builds as an option, the Raspberry Pi or Retropie community that's the server. You can also put your screen randomization on. As far as doing the flash screen, that's also the same. Show your IP, like the bands, Retropie video loading screen. So if you guys are spending any time with Raspberry Pi or computers, you'll feel right at home because the learning curve is very simple. You have Retropie here, reset all controllers. This erases, if you are a builder or seller or whatnot, and you're setting up controls for people and you want to erase your controllers, that's what this option is for. And of course, you guys are all familiar with the Raspberry Pi video output that Dirty Gaming, Pi Nation, and Liberty worked on. Of course, this will also be compatible with 4K TVs, and which brings me to another point in this video. I'll talk on it briefly. So currently, right now, since there are no GL drivers or a way to optimize video output, we aren't able to take full advantage of the dual display. I know that's a huge disappointment. I know you can if you have the desktop, if you're using the Raspberry and Buster desktop, you can enable dual display for that, for the Raspbian operating system. However, before I started playing around with this version and we had desktop running in the background, I tried to manually change the video output by hand to see if I could stretch it, as if you guys have been following me on Retropie forums and whatnot, to stretch it to where the gameplay stretches between either 2 different TVs. But currently, that is not possible until GL drivers are available. If any of you guys are familiar with NVIDIA, how you're able to set up surround display, that is essentially what I'm talking about, that allows you to overlap different monitors and extend your entire gameplay footage onto a different monitor. Overscan, so this way you don't have your TV or your safe zones are perfectly lined up. Media removal, launching screens. You all know hursty, all of these things. Personal applications here for you. File manager, ES things, configuration. Everything you guys are familiar with is here. A lot of these games still run faster than they should. I've already played Super Nintendo and several others. And I'll just play for a few seconds here of World Heroes so you guys can see the game. Now, as we all know, some of the games that I wanted to show you guys earlier are some of the harder games as far as your optimization or games that wouldn't possibly run, but we all know that NES or SNES should run fine, and as you can see, there's no glitches in it. There are still tests being made to other operating systems and emulators just to make sure they work, because again, just because it's Retropie and we're using it on the 4B doesn't guarantee to work, as you guys have seen with Recast not being playable currently on the Raspberry Pi 4. Now, one of the games that's been very difficult to emulate on the Raspberry Pi has been the Jackie Chan game. This one comes at a courtesy or request from Damaso, who's also another image maker, and he wanted to see exactly how fast or optimized with Jackie Chan games run on the new 4B, and they're all running at 100% speed, which we're glad to announce. So we're just going to sit here and play a little bit of video footage from that.
I'm Jackie Chan. This is my game.
In fact, before he told me this, I didn't even realize it was that hard to emulate this game. Now we're going to go ahead and start. And as you can see, there's no lag at the load. The sound is synced. No lag at all. And it looks like very nice and smooth. Next game we're going to check out really quick is the X-Men 6-player game. I know I've ran this on the Supreme 1-Up image, and the emulator that I used for the X-Men 6-player game was Advanced MAME 1.4. But even then, when it was being emulated on the Supreme 1-Up build, that there was a little bit of a delay between action and audio, probably about a fourth or maybe a fifth of a millisecond audio delay. But since I'm running this through MAME 2016, it's running flawlessly. It's almost as if you're actually playing it on the arcade system itself. So we're going to go ahead and play it. Go ahead and wait for it to load. And as you guys begin to do this a little bit, more often or more times you're playing with your games and finding out what emulators work best, the time that the Supreme team has definitely put in to get all this stuff working. It's not like we're just going in and selecting the emulator for a game. We have to go in and select 5 or 6 different emulators to see which one gives it the best speed. And remember, a lot of this has to do with emulation and the emulators and not the game itself or the hardware. And some people may laugh at the whole idea, but Killer Instinct and NFL Blitz can run on any current hardware that we have today, but a lot of it is still based on optimization and of the emulators. Even with me running a quad-core 4820 Intel processor and an RTX 2080, I still can't run House of the Dead on arcade. And I remember one time I was playing MAME version of House of the Dead. It quit out really quickly, and it said that they're still working on it through MAME. So keep in mind that even though we have today's technology and there shouldn't be any issues, it still comes down to emulation. Alright, so let's go ahead and load up Killer Instinct. I want to show you guys exactly how it performs, loading on the 4B for the first time. I'm just really happy it loaded. I was really skeptical at first. I know I've seen some other videos where it was running and whatnot, but this is with running, is running MAME 2016. So again, I do believe that Killer Instinct could run on the 3B. However, since MAME 2016 couldn't emulate it because it's not there, then it became a problem. So right now I believe this is running at about maybe 15 to 20 frames per second, but as we spend more time dealing with optimization, we'll see exactly how far we can push it. And again, remember, the Pi that I'm using is not overclocked at all, and RAM hasn't been allocated to maybe speed up processing times either. But personally, I still believe all of this is emulation and not really a hardware issue. And here we have Blitz 2000 Arcade Edition running here on the Raspberry Pi 4. Takes a little while for the game to load up. Now the N64 version runs pretty good. I didn't have any complaints about that one. It runs equivalent to the PlayStation version on the 3B Plus. So with this arcade version, there wasn't too many hiccups with it. Obviously there was a little bit of lag, but of course we know that's due to GL drivers and maybe some emulation and optimization. But I'm pretty optimistic about how the final version of this game will look once we get everything figured out. And right now the game is just getting ready to load, so you're going to experience a little bit of audio lag. And I was told today, one of the guys I'm working with, that if you do shut off the audio, it is possible to get a better frame rate. So I'll probably try that in a few more experiments in the next few days to see if I can get some better frame rates by turning off the audio. Now, as you can see here, the game is lagging, as we expected. But we're going to hope to eventually improve upon that. Now, keep in mind, it's been said that Retropie wasn't supposed to run on the 4B, Raspberry Pi 4B for another 6 or 7 months. So considering that not only are we getting Retropie loaded on the 4B, but we are getting some of these games that would never load on the 3B Plus to load, but they are running. So, I mean, it's a win-win situation for everybody. So, I know that a lot of you guys are really impressed right now with this performance. Some of you who are really unfamiliar with this process, this is really an astounding achievement for retro gaming and emulation on the Raspberry Pi 4B. In addition to some of the other things that you guys may have either heard or seen, it is possible to play some of the GameCube games on the Raspberry Pi 4. The reason why you're not able to do it in Retropie is because this is running through another Linux-based operating system on the Raspberry Pi, which makes it possible. So, yeah, the hardware specifications do allow us to try to play some of these other systems. Maybe the Wii, but of course the GameCube on the Raspberry Pi 4. But since we're running Retropie, we won't be able to activate this feature, unfortunately. This particular video footage was given to me courtesy of Steve Lambo, who is a Retro Pi dev and Raspberry Pi dev. He's a really great guy. But this is what we have so far, and these are some of the other implications or possibilities rather on the Raspberry Pi 4. And last but not least, we have another game running. I can't remember which system this is on, but this is Sonic the Hedgehog. It's not using Retropie. It's using another Linux-based operating system, which doesn't have all the other specs that Raspberry and Buster has. Fully running at anywhere between 25 to 30 frames per second. Again, this is courtesy of Steve Lambeau. You can see this is Sonic the Hedgehog. There's a little bit of downtime here and there, but these are the full capabilities of what you're going to expect with the Raspberry Pi 4. We're going to try to get everything optimized for you, the user out there, but you know, it's definitely hard work. A lot of this, and there's only a handful of us taking a look at this kind of stuff right now. But you guys can expect this soon, maybe within the next month or so. We're still fully testing everything, but everything's looking promising. Please leave a comment or like this video if you guys have found this informational. I will keep you guys updated in the Retropie forum. And if you found this video helpful, as well as my other content, please consider subscribing to the channel. And I don't know. I mean, I'm really impressed with everything here, guys. So I know it's been a lot of hard work, but we're going to get everything out to you guys as soon as we can. But this is Kiodiekin. I will see you guys next time. I can't believe it took me 6 hours to compile 2 emulators.